forecast said that there'd be snowflakes. Whoa, you can make us see it your way. No way, gasoline and propane, more flames. Oh no, no more snowflakes.
We can all get along, but there's no stopping. Ay, everybody's wrong, that's a real problem. Ay, they don't want to hear it, but they still talking. Ay, soon enough, we running out of options. Ay, this ain't gonna end till it's in the coffin. Ay, we ain't gonna be friends till we try to squash it. Ay, I don't know how we can make amends or we drop it. Snowflakes melt when it's hot, kid.
Y'all are so fake. Oh no, the forecast said that there'd be snowflakes. Whoa, you can make us see it your way. No way, gasoline and propane, more flames. Oh no, no more snowflakes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to HeartMind Expressions, Fab 4. Today is going to be a short show. We're going to be here for about a half hour of your fantastic Friday evening. And it's going to be with me and the lovely Sue McClure.
Hey,
Amária
guys.
and Dr. Bloom are not going to be available today. So let's go into the topic they were talking about when it came to obedience and how it's pretty much being weaponized at this point in time.
Yeah, the thing called political correctness. I thought we could just get in on that because they were constantly being censored. They're constantly changing the language of how we're supposed to talk. I mean, I remember when I was growing up, I was allowed to use the term janitor, and then when I got older, they said, nope, 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 you got to use, say, custodian, worker. So, I mean, it's been coming for a long time, but now it's getting more intense.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I think it's kind of interesting. I mean, I know I've seen a lot of changes with when I was growing up through, the late 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and how you saw society drastically change and how things were done, why things were done. Like, there was a time when you could take a bad joke and everybody laughed. Now, if you say a bad joke or something that's slightly insensitive, you get one of the you get
You don't want to
called
be
one
at
of
the
the
butt
isms.
end of it.
Yeah, you could tell a blonde joke or a joke about somebody who was gay or someone who was, foreign.
I mean,
And
even a lot of jokes that they had were even racist, and they were actually kind of funny, because everybody got picked on. All the comedians just picked on everybody, and we just found it funny. We all had a good time with that, and now that's changed.
uh-huh.
You could get
I know.
fired.
Oh, yeah. I know one of my two of my favorite joke types, which are now considered really kind of risque at this point in time, were dead baby jokes and Polish jokes.
Yeah.
And the reason why, if you know some of them, you'll understand why they can get very, very risque, very, they're just not for everybody, basically. Now you can't make a simple knock joke without somebody be teasing you. Oh, okay. So it looks like we're having technical issues with Sue. So basically, what I was trying to go with that is that jokes and just in general basic conduct is a sensitive topic at this point, and how what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say. I mean, nowadays, if you deal with identities, I mean, the biggest hot topic now when it comes to these things would have to do with the LGBTQ community and how if you address somebody in a certain way, apparently you can be considered extremely offensive. When prior to this humongous boom of sudden realization of these things, and I'm not saying that didn't happen prior, but it was much less widespread than it is now. Um, these things just they weren't acknowledged or they weren't as well widely expressed, and most people knew, and most people just didn't care. If it didn't affect them, they really didn't worry about it too much. So now we have political correctness and all the different other things that will come with that. It's insensitive to say this or it's insensitive to do that. It's wrong. Why? I don't know. It may be the changing of a culture because cultures do change over the course of time. Could be influence from outside cultures to another culture, through things such as assimilation of one culture to another, or the transfer of cultural values from one to another. I couldn't tell you exactly the reason why that happens. It just does happen. And this isn't the first time this has happened. This is something that happens regularly within civilizations over the course of time. Now, what's so interesting about that is that now we're seeing this in real time and how these things can change as quickly or slowly as it allows. Some things will take 5, 10, 20 years. Other things take months, weeks, even in some cases. There was one time I can remember where you couldn't actually use the term. There was a term that used within the special needs community, and that was retarded. Now, nowadays it's considered a slur at this point in time, but there was a time when that was a regularly used term. I mean, that's where the terms like mental retardation comes into play, which spawns from Latin. But now it's just considered wrong and bad to say those things, which makes sense because it is a very aggressively termed word. So that's hi, Sue.
Hey, I'm back. I guess they didn't like what I had to say.
Well, I was kind of going over the changes of things. I was just finished up on why certain words such as like how some special needs kids were considered retarded until recently, because now it's considered much more of a slur than it was before.
Yeah, it's a lot of cuss words even that we were not allowed to say growing up. It's normal now.
Remember, it reminds me of the I think it's the 7 words you're not supposed to say on TV. George Carlin.
Yeah.
And how often do you hear those words now?
Yeah, half the list actually.
Sometimes more than that, depending on where you are.
Yeah. Well, New York, I think they complete the whole list.
Oh, what was that? I'm not going to utter those words. I'm not going to utter it too much because I rather keep myself clean for the most part at this point in time. But
it's good. That's a good idea. Yeah, it's
it's
how
a family
everything
show
has changed.
after all.
Yeah, how everything has absolutely changed, and we're constantly being censored. Such as I just got thrown off for no reason. Literally, everything went kaput. So yeah, that was weird. I haven't had that happen. I guess there's a first time for everything.
Well, I had it happen last week. You had it this week.
I guess it was my turn.
It's time to. We just got to share the love, I guess.
Absolutely. From the CCP.
Hey, that's funny about that. About I mentioned you mentioned CCP. We're just talking about the party. We're not talking about the actual people there. There are people there who are horribly oppressed in that area.
Yeah, China is the people of China is awesome. It's the Chinese Communist Party Yeah, and the top of the tiers, they're the ones that's been controlling absolutely everything. What you say, what you do. They can even withhold your money from your account if you said something that they didn't like. And
Yeah.
that's just a little punishment compared to them hauling you off to prison.
Hmm. I
And
mean,
then they can go further than that and have you killed. And a lot of people have been killed. If you've seen the displays, what they call what do they call it? Some sort of a art where you didn't have any skin on you, and they show all your muscles and innards and everything. They have these
oh,
arts come to town. Yeah,
like the human body exhibits.
yeah. A lot of
Yeah.
them were prisoners, but they like to say that a lot of them were prisoners, but a lot of them were, part of the Falun Gong, Falun Dafa movement. A lot of them were part of just people that spoke
Falun,
out, yeah, and they
talking
could
about
be just,
Falun Gong.
yeah. hmm
Mm.
And,
Well, not just
a
the
lot of,
Falun Gong, but also the Uyghurs.
yeah, they would just put normal everyday people up for display, and these are the people that even spoke against the Communist Party has or fight against the Communist Party could easily end up on display.
Oh yes, it's a way to deter things if you are a bad person of the party, right?
Well,
Uh,
it's kind of the same thing what they did in the European countries. They would put your head on the stake to kind of give a
like,
warning.
oh well, they would do worse than that. I mean, we could go on to some of the horrific tortures that have happened within medieval Europe. Even more recently than that. I mean, torture in Europe of that degree doesn't just happen in the Middle Ages. It
Yeah,
was a continuous thing for
yeah.
centuries after. I mean, there are
And
times
it's
where you
happening
still.
now.
Yes, it is. It's
It's their way of saying shut up, or this could be you next.
papers, please.
Yep.
And it's funny. It's kind of funny because I remember you and I, Maria, and Bloom, we were all talking about like passports and other things of that nature, and how we were saying how that could be a very real thing, and here we are. I'm not going to go any further than that, just due to the sensitive nature of that.
We have been
Uh,
warned about it for a couple of years, but a lot of people laughed it off. No,
no,
this could never happen in the United States. This happened in Germany a long time ago, Australia one long time ago, but not Germany, not
not
Germany. That this could never happen in the United States.
a long
Well,
time,
here we are.
not a long time ago. Those people, there are still family members who were dealing with that issue back in World War II.
Yeah, well, the family actually went underground for quite a while, and then it resurfaced recently. I mean, really, really resurfaced, and they're in charge of especially the electronic version of the vaccine passport.
Hmm. Oh, speaking of Austria and Germany, and this is completely a random thought. All right, Christmas music. Okay, you remember? You know this? You know how nowadays they play the song "My Favorite Things"
Yeah,
from Sound of Music.
yeah.
I used to. Every so often when I hear that, I make the sarcastic remark of nothing says holiday Christmas spirit than an Austrian family escaping the Third Reich.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
that is the story of Sound of Music, is the Von Trapp family from Austria. They were told, I believe, by the SS at the time to fly one of the Nazi party flags, and the father, the father refused, and so they had to escape their home because they were going to be arrested otherwise.
and it's
You know?
when you stand up for tyranny, it does take a price, but it takes bravery. It takes a special person that's willing to stand up, and
And,
anybody can do it. It's just you have to be willing to rise up.
yeah.
And that's what we're all called to do now, is to rise up to the tyranny that's going on. We're basically literally within I don't know, we're kind of an inch of the edge of the blade here from what's happening to our freedom to being completely chained down.
Well, I
It's
know.
all
Sorry, go ahead, finish about.
It's all being tested now.
Yeah, I know that we actually had a pretty major incident here in New Jersey at the State House, where the State House was supposedly locked down, and there was a mandate on it stating that you had to have a test or you had to have a card to prove, you know, your medical status in order to go within the legislature's chambers. They literally had state police in the chambers forcing members of the legislature to not get into the chambers unless they prove these things.
Wow.
So you had like 30 assembly people, and assembly, if you're not familiar with New Jersey politics, assembly people would be considered the lower house, kind of like a part of like the House of Representatives. We have assemblymen, and then we have state senators, kind of like how they're representatives and senators in the federal level. But yeah, you had like 30 assembly people. They were not allowed to convene within the assembly chambers, and they were being forced. They were literally being blockaded by state troopers.
Yeah,
Now
that doesn't sound familiar at all.
now the nice thing is that they finally have they started pressing charges on the state police and on members of the leaders of the legislature, stated that it's completely unconstitutional to do such a thing.
Yeah, that's good. That's awesome.
I don't know how well that's going to do. I mean, a lot of these people, and I'm going to be very honest. I mean, I guess I may be a committee person, but I'm still going to say this: they are very thin-skinned. They do not. A lot of these people do not do. They don't do things when they need to do them until it's too late.
Oh.
Then that is the problem. I'm not challenging their character. I'm not challenging anything whatsoever. I'm just stating that they have a track history of that happening. And I wish the best for this. I think that if there's a time for things to happen and things to change, this is the time to do it. And I'm just wishing the best for the situation.
Well, the good thing about these things coming through is there's allowing people to see this sort of thing. I mean,
yes,
a lot of times we've had, throughout the times when we were trying to tell people stuff, they wouldn't listen. So now it's showing. With the tell part's over, that's the show part now.
I think there was an expression which was, you can either do things on your own, or else the truth is going to be a suppository.
Yeah. Or what was it? SH hits the fan.
Oh, that hits things hit the fan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of hard. It's kind of difficult to scrape yourself off due to the fact of the fan.
I don't know. It depends what speed the fan is on too.
And which direction the fan's going.
Yeah. There you go. If you're in the line of fire, you're gonna get it.
It's not exactly going to be the most pretty situation.
No. And it also depends on what kind of SH it's going to be as well.
Do we really have to talk about the contents of it?
No, I was thinking like from a horse or a donkey.
Even worse.
Exactly.
I don't think that that's what they were talking about when they talked about the content of their character. I don't think that's what they meant.
No.
I think they.
I mean, it's kind of hard to judge it if it's all over you, but what can you do?
Oh, you mean like what's black and white and red all over, a badger in a blender?
Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Which, once again, blood, apparently bad. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Or
Yeah.
I could go into bad jokes, but we'll be here all day and probably deal with a ton of eye rolls.
Yeah, there you go. So the main thing is that society even wants its obedience out of us. So
oh yeah,
the obedience is a thing, and they're having. I mean, watch how they're constantly pushing everything. So that shows right there that the big guys are not in control, because if they're in control, that everything would look natural, it would look smooth, it would look simplified, but it's not. It's being forced, it's being sped up, and so I don't think the higher ups are in control, and so that's why they're getting louder and meaner about it,
It's
whatever
just
the subject is.
it's rush, 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 rush. And last time I was told about rushing is that you're going to make mistakes,
Yeah,
and they're
haste
going to,
makes waste.
yeah, haste means waste. Yes,
So it's showing through. It's definitely showing through. I don't know how many people are seeing this when, um, the mainstream media is pumping out. But I haven't watched mainstream media too much. But I have noticed on occasion that they are trying very hard not to touch on any of the subject. But meanwhile, the internet's screaming and censoring like crazy.
well, we know there's at least one pundit that is currently out of commission nowadays.
Yeah, a lot of stepping downs,
No, no,
resigning
no. I'm talking about a suspension. There was a suspension this week.
to
Chris Cuomo
yeah.
was given
Oh,
an
Chris Cuomo,
indefinite
yeah.
suspension, which I mean essentially means you're fired. Uh, but
Well, he's under investigation for
assisting
wrongful
his
types of get-togethers and nursing homes incident.
no, no, no. That's his brother Andrew
Oh, with
Cuomo.
brother. Oh, Andrew. Oh, I'm sorry.
But there's
I get
basically
them mixed up, so that's my bad. Well, no, I thought
they-
I thought his brother was also in trouble as well.
okay. So
Yeah,
Andrew Cuomo, the former disgraced governor
right.
of New York, dealt with the nursing homes in New York.
Yeah,
Chris Cuomo, which is his brother, I think he's about 20
yeah.
years
The one
younger.
for right. Chris, the one he runs with CNN,
Yes, he
right?
was with CNN. He was just
Yeah.
suspended earlier this week due to um,
But his
litigation.
brother's but his brother's also gone too, or isn't he? I mean, we haven't heard. So
The Andrew Cuomo was the governor. He resigned earlier this year.
yeah.
That's why you have Holcomb as the governor now of New York. Um, Chris Cuomo was suspended from CNN due to his connections to his brother. Supposedly had to do with, from my understanding, it had to do with him giving legal advice or assisting him in that, because I believe he has a law degree and he was practicing.
Well, they doing a similar type of thing with the connection with Joe and Hunter Biden.
That's a little bit more difficult considering one's in
Yeah,
office and one resigned. So they're
yeah.
technically a private citizen now. So you
Right.
can, what's going to happen with that? I don't know just yet.
Yeah.
All I know is that things are happening. I can't give you actual, information about it. I don't have insiders. I don't have drop boxes. I don't have all these
Yeah.
elaborate
I
things that
don't
other
either.
people.
That would be great if we had that, but I don't have that either.
Oh, if I did, I wouldn't. I would be very skeptical about that because I don't know how genuine the information would be.
I wouldn't. I don't know how much we're allowed to say, but if I was actually an insider, would I get suicided?
If I was an insider, am I going to be dealing with being arrested for divulging national security protocols?
Exactly.
That's one of the things. I mean, they're like, oh, nothing's happening. That's because you're not allowed to talk about it. If there is an op, you wouldn't be allowed to talk about it in the first place. That's the whole point of covert. That's the whole point of covert and clandestine operations. You can't talk about it.
Well, that tells you right there that even real investigations that are being done are the real investigation. If you see the news talk about it straight up right away, then chances of it being a bogus banner is pretty high. Usually, any kind of investigation is going to be really slow. Information usually doesn't get leaked. If it does, it's very minimal. That at least letting us know that there's an investigation. That's about as far as we're allowed to go with it.
I think the best way to explain the best comparison is the Mueller investigation and the Durham investigation.
Yeah.
Although they're both considered special counsels, but they have been done in two completely different ways. Mueller's investigation, there was like a news update every week or every 5 days or so like that. Not in Durham. I mean, it's very rare you hear anything. I mean, every so often you'll hear like, oh, they are currently doing this, or oh, this person was just indicted. But there have been times where we were not getting information about it for months at an end. I mean, remember we learned about Kleinsmith last year, and it was just recently when you have the two recent indictments that have occurred within the last month. So
Yeah.
I mean, that shows you, and the fact that we are learning that Durham's been on this case for far longer than originally considered. I mean, there has been evidence to possibly suggest that Durham's been doing this since Jeff Sessions was Attorney General, and that's almost 5 years ago.
I got the impression he was at it even longer than that, but I could be wrong.
I don't know, might be.
Well,
That's the
We'll
nature of
find out.
investigation.
Everything's going to come out on the wash. We'll just have to wait.
Oh, I mean, like you're saying, that's the nature of the investigation. We don't know until everything is locked shut, right?
Well, then that's what they're doing is they want to make sure that everything is airtight. That's why it's taking so long because they only got one shot at this.
Exactly. If they don't do everything legally,
All the
constitutionally,
I's dotted, T's crossed, everything.
if you don't do everything exactly the way things are supposed to be done, then you're going to be part of the problem as much as anybody else because you've committed or has enabled certain things.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll just so if anybody wants to know if a case is really happening or whether it's a bogus banner, if you get information within 24 to 48 hours, especially who, what, where, when, why, pretty much get all answered, that's your clue right there that it's probably just there for show and for political purpose.
Well, I mean, look at what's happened recently. We just recently, you had the Rittenhouse case where he was completely cleared of all charges. Personally, I'm very glad that happened because of just the situation that was happening, and
Well,
like
now
it
we
or
got
not,
the whole Smollett thing going.
juicy Smollett, as Jay Capel would say. If you guys ever see the stand-up that he does that, all you got to do is go into like YouTube, type in Jesse Smollett, Dave Chappelle stand-up. You'll see the clip. It's probably one of Chappelle's best within the last 5 years. But yeah, I completely agree. Smollett's currently dealing with a federal case in Chicago. We have Ghislaine Maxwell currently dealing with a trial in New York. Once again, Epstein didn't kill himself, just to say. And now
put it out there.
But here's the funny thing: now we can say this with 100%. He did not kill himself because we are learning through this case that the cameras in the facility where Epstein was being held prior to his trial supposedly wasn't working at that time. And who was responsible about this whole investigation? Marlene Cuomo, who is the head prosecutor of the Maxwell case.
Wow.
We can say that without any doubt at this point, is that there was some connection with the Comeys and Epstein. There's some connection there.
Epstein got around all the time. I mean, he was they were talking about how much he was even at the White House.
17 times during the Clinton administration. 17 times.
What is up with that number? It keeps coming up.
It just keeps on coming around. Somebody should make a drinking game about that. Actually, don't do that. That would be a very bad idea.
You would end up in the ER.
You would probably have to have your stomach pumped. And I've heard that's a very uncomfortable experience.
Yes, it is actually. I've had that happen before, and not because of drinking, but because of other things.
Well, oh, it looks like you have firsthand experience, so I'm going to make sure that
Oh boy.
yeah, but
Yeah,
that,
there's a lot of things. I mean,
yeah,
Rob Schmidt from Newsmax, he kind of jokingly made a drinking game one time when Kamala Harris kept saying root cause in one entire speech. So he had a shot glass with him, and he would just, take a sip. The shot glass was empty, but I mean, he would take, a mocking sip of every time she said root cause. So it was well more than enough time to send someone to the ER very easily.
now I like to see someone do that. And I probably already has. Someone probably already has done that. When it comes to Jen Psaki and circling back,
Yeah.
or Biden with either Come On Man or Malarkey.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm, you know, that's the. I mean, you could say you could do the same thing with Trump, and every time that he did something fantastical, like this was one of the greats, and repeats himself. That just that's just the nature of human beings. They will have their own speech patterns. They have their own way of expressing themselves.
Yeah, well, the way of just, yeah,
And I
absolute
mean that
talk.
that comes from everything from stress to excitement to anger to fear to stress. I mean, you, there's a fantastic channel you can look up. I don't know if she has her channel up on YouTube anymore. I believe it's also on Rumble and BitChute. Um, but it was called Bombard's body language. I think it's called something Ghost now. Um, the name escapes me, but
I know there was a lady who also did the I know it's a little off topic kind of, but there was a lady that was really good with lip reading or something, and she was able to lip read what they say on and
mhm,
off camera when they're not on the camera, but
that's it. Yep.
that one,
Okay.
is that the one you're talking about?
No. The one I'm talking about.
Okay,
Okay, on BitChute, it's called Bombard's body language.
okay,
Okay, so is she's a British body language specialist. I don't know if she does it professionally, but she's still very good at it nonetheless. And she'll say, "Oh, that person's leaning, or somebody's looking a certain way. That normally indicates X and Y."
yeah.
Oh, that means they're looking for approval, or oh no, that means stress. There's a lot of stress in the face. There's a lot of stress in the arms. It's just you know, yeah. That's the funny thing is that we are very expressive creatures. You know, that's
Oh,
what
absolutely.
you know, that's why there's such a massive discipline when it comes to human psychology and how a person interacts with their environment. I mean, that's a whole study in itself.
Well, those who are sensitive to that sort of thing also has the discernment of telling whether someone is dangerous or not, where someone can see it, where someone cannot. You know,
Mhm.
there's even when we were growing up in high school, some of us could tell when a person is not such a good idea to hang out with, while others said, "What do you mean? He or she is perfectly fine. There's nothing to worry about." But you get these little spidey senses or whatever,
Yeah. I know.
and
It's that gut feeling that you get. That person's bad business,
even
just
if
by the
they
way.
appear great on the outside, and now we're having it here with all those people in office, we're pointing out, who is, not such good news and who is. We're seeing a lot of corruption, even the ones that sound great on camera, but you get these feelings that there's stuff underneath it all.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I completely agree. As bad as things are, they are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And I don't, and I'm not saying that in a 1984 Orwell way, bad is good, left is right. I'm saying that as things are so bad that things are illuminated. You
Yeah.
can see when someone makes a mistake. You can tell if someone's stressed. You can tell if someone's bad business just by how they're doing things. It's that's that. Granted, it's not going. Not everybody's going to recognize it. It's just a lot easier than it was prior.
Yeah. Well, especially when you see them backtrack what they say.
Yeah, we had
Especially Dr. Ouchie is doing a lot of that. He'll say 1 mask, 2 masks, 3 face diapers, 4, and switch it. No, we don't need to wear it, and social distance, no social distance. Well, I'm not gonna make everybody do the Ouchie shot, and then now that's it's being mandated, whatever, and it's just that it's constant changing mind, and then you see all the individuals deciding to either wear the face diaper or not. Um, they get to go to these gatherings, and they have their own way of doing things, but they want to enforce it on us. I mean, we're seeing constant amount of mirroring, contradiction, everything, and they're allowed to say and do whatever they want, but we need to watch it, whatever we say and do. And that's the whole thing about the censoring. That's the whole thing about the obedience that they want from us.
Mhm. Well, I don't know. It's kind of amusing. Was Fauci just had a press conference about 2-3 days ago, and they were talking about how everybody has to do proper things. It's encouraging to do
He,
obviously, but
yeah,
here's the catch. Here's the catch, right? The reporter then asked, okay, you say all these things. What about the people in the southern border? Are they supposed to do the exact same things? And he backtracked as fast as you could possibly imagine. He's like,
yeah,
wait a minute, that's a totally different situation. No, you're talking about the same situation, but you have rules for thee and not for me in that ring.
yeah.
You know, and then also, if you guys were watching, there was a presser today with Biden. His voice was normally deep than usual.
Yeah, I
He
noticed that.
sounded very, he sounded very congested, almost. Right, and there was he had a physical just the other day, and he said, "Oh, he has a frog in his throat." Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. In uh, um,
Oh,
those
the
were
fog. You mean the one that's been boiling slowly?
maybe. Anywho, and on the bottom it said he was being tested at least uh, 3 times a week. When Saki says anything, apparently it was daily. What we found out is that he was not having those things happen in the first place. Those both of them were completely wrong.
Wow.
So we don't even know the current health of the resident in chief right now, because inconsistent data with the press secretary and the doctor are both saying two completely different things, and so is Biden. They're all three of these people are saying three completely different things. So which one's accurate?
And we're not
One
allowed
of
to
these.
talk about it on social media and the major platforms between Epic and Twitter and stuff. I just got a notification um, about Bill Gates, so apparently I'm not allowed to talk about him either.
How he defrauded the entire internet at one time. He was that he was trying to create a monopoly as the CEO of Microsoft until there was a trust what's it called, antitrust lawsuit put on during the 90s, and I think it was 1998, I believe it was. I might be wrong.
Remember, this was the guy who had all this software, and he was creating viruses so he could sell that and make money. Now, what is he doing these days?
Oh, the same thing, except for computer viruses. It's human.
Yeah,
It's medical viruses.
exactly.
Anyway,
He sounds like he practiced on the computer. Now he's doing it on people.
oh, and by the way, he doesn't have any type of medical training whatsoever. So there's that.
Yeah.
But here, funny thing about that, you were talking about the viruses. Guess who was the person who developed antivirus to defeat the Microsoft viruses? Do you know who it was?
No, I don't.
It was McAfee. John McAfee, and McAfee antivirus was the first antivirus software to prevent the Microsoft viruses, which were not initially part of the programs. It was actually brought in artificially into the systems. There were backdoors in the computers, and what happened was that McAfee and the antivirus blocked those backdoors from the computers so that the viruses would not even get into the computer.
Well, uh, more or less it works now.
Well,
I mean,
McAfee,
even a lot of the Apple computers have all these things already installed in them.
yep,
But like I
a lot of
said, but
backdoors.
a lot of um, but these viruses were still being created and they're still being sent out, especially to hackers and things like that. A lot of them have even been designed to dissolve firewalls.
Mm-hmm. I also want to
So
say real quickly, McAfee didn't kill himself.
yeah, there you go.
He was, if you actually know the story of McAfee, it was a transfer gone wrong, quote unquote. Supposedly, he was in a Spanish prison, and he was supposed to be extradited to the United States. Something happened, and he is dead supposedly. The reason why I say supposedly is because McAfee has a history of hiring people to play as body doubles. So we don't know if that story is accurate. If it's not accurate, it's really up to interpretation of exactly what's going on, unless facts are completely presented in that situation.
I don't know, if I was him, I would fake it.
Oh, he has in the past. That's the
Yeah,
thing. He has a he has a very big rivalry with the United States government.
yeah.
And it deals with taxation, which I have to say I completely understand why someone would be opposed to those things.
It's actually not that hard to do as long as you have enough connections.
Of course, but you know, obedience. Remember, so obedience. You must obey.
Yeah, well, it's just so much of the censoring, and they want it to be. I mean, when they're gonna if they have their way, they would love to control every aspect of our lives, but we're actually clinging on what little bit of freedom United States has left. And we're going to do
Yep.
everything we can to keep it, and then we're going to do everything we can to break that down and we gain more of our freedom. So, you know, it's just that we all have to stand up. And it's just like we have said in the past in the show, that little board game where the people are being used as table and the elites are sitting around it. They said all we have to do is stand up. And so that's exactly what we all have to do, is stand up and you know, go against it, because they can't do anything. They can't do anything. They need us more than we need them.
Well, you know what's funny is that you can actually use a quote by Karl Marx against the deep state, and it's very amusing that you can. And the quote is, "Workers unite. All you have to lose is but your chains." Well, think about it. All we have to lose now is what? Not
Is
much. We don't have a
yeah,
lot to that we can lose at this point.
yeah.
So so what's stopping us? Right? What's stopping at this point? Job,
The
livelihood.
uncomfortable people are uncomfortable with absolute freedom because they like to have the government to look up to. They like to say, okay, I like this whole virus thing. People like the idea that they have they said, okay, let's have the government take care of this, put the true faith and true trust in the government instead of your own sovereignty and your own self. And to me, every decision, yours, which they've conditioned us and programmed us, that there's a parent in the house and we have somebody to look up to, and somebody has all the answers, and we have to give away our sovereignty and freedom in order to feel safe and to stay safe. But what are we going to do when those people are not making us safe? They're not giving us safety whatsoever. They're just simply big con artists, and they're taking advantage of us. They're
Mhm.
literally the mafia.
Oh, it's organized crime nonetheless.
Yeah.
Well, so it looks like we were supposed to do a half hour. We put another extra 20 minutes in there. I think this reached a natural conclusion. If there
Well,
was
it's
any
fun
other,
to hang out with you. So that's what happens when time flies, when you're having fun.
yeah, I guess so, right?
But time's
So
an illusion, so I don't know how that expression works either. That's another one we're gonna have to work on.
I think more things are unexplained than they are explained at this point in time.
Yeah.
Um, as much as
I
we
stand
want to
with
say
that
that
on
we
that
know it all.
note. I'll stand with that, definitely.
Okay. Well, then, thank you guys for joining us for another edition. Have a great night
Have an
and
awesome weekend, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
and take care. Have a good one.
Bye. Love you.
Bye now.